Well, we don't have any public comment people signed in.
Nope.
So we'll move to the purpose of the meeting. Financial review for Monroe-Gregg School District.
Yeah, so we're kind of at the point where we need to start having some serious talks about where we're heading with overall finances and things like that. I know I've got Dr. Paul Kaiser here tonight. He's going to do a little bit of a presentation too that has to do with strategic planning and things like that, but it feeds right into all of this really. Do you want to introduce your colleague that you brought with you too?
Yeah, this is David.
Yep, which he's been here before and presented with us, so he's going to talk to us a little bit too. I think part of the strategic planning that we're looking at is how do we market ourselves? How do we draw in more students and things like that? So that's what is really playing into their presentation tonight too. So Brock, I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to start with
I
them
think
talking a
he's
little
got
bit?
Presentation. I'd just let him go ahead and do the presentation.
kind of
get
what I
through
was
that, and then
thinking.
we'll, brainstorm off
Perfect.
of maybe what comes out of that.
I think that's a great idea. So, yep, we're going to put that up for you.
If you just want to go a little with the circles on it, I'll go down
Yep.
right there. The rest of it is my life story, which no one cares about. So I think one thing, and I have the chance to, I teach at Indiana State, I've done that for 12, 13 years, and I'm mentor superintendents, other fun stuff. But I think the one thing that I find, especially now that I'm retired and I'm meeting with more superintendents, is it's important that you have a system in place. And Trent and I have talked, and I've had a chance to, have some meeting with the principals on this model called continuous quality. And my class at Indiana State, the first time we meet in the spring, I go through this presentation with them. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing tonight, but you do have it. But I think the key thing is as you establish your mission, your vision, your collaborative processes, and everything related to this, it all has to come down to what system do you have in place. And as you look at continuous quality, there's a subtle accountability to this entire process. For example, if when I was superintendent here and someone came to me and said, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, I would go back and say, does it align with our strategic plan? Does it align with our vision and where we want to be? That has to be critical, and that's why, as a board, we just went through sessions of strategic planning, and Trent and I and Andrew, we're going to kind of finalize and get it back to you. But part of this whole process is you're looking at your data, you're looking at test scores, you're looking at what teachers are doing in a classroom. And my experience is teachers will do whatever you, they'll do whatever you ask them to do as long as you do it in a collaborative fashion. You don't do things to teachers, you do them with it. And as we talk about test scores, one of the major concepts that I've kind of introduced to Trent, and I had lunch with the Delphi superintendent yesterday talking to her about this and some others, but is that meeting of always meeting consistently with your people around you. And part of this system, very simple, is this, is as a school board, you need to meet with your superintendent minimum 3 times a year to look at the goals in the strategic plan. And and one of those obviously is to be fiscally sound in your decision making and what you're doing. So it really starts with the board and the superintendent. That those ongoing meetings, they're called system to system meetings. And you guys in your jobs, you guys have all those kind of meetings, but it becomes very regular and very, I've done this for 20 years. We didn't do that when I was here. We kind of developed that when I went to Beech Grove and really refined it at Westfield. For example, right now, Westfield has over 2,000 employees, and I don't know how many teachers. Every single teacher does a learning target based on the academic goals for that building and the school corporation, tying back to the strategic plan that we did. And the same thing, I see Manette back there in transportation. Part of this process is they would work in transportation to create performance targets on efficiencies. Looking at our routes, looking at everything that we're doing. Are there things that we need to look at to make us even more efficient? It was such a huge staff, but 2. But how can we be more efficient? But that takes place by her and her team meeting with the superintendent 3 times a year, talking about the goals, talking about what we're doing to get better. And again, it's a very simple process, that we've used through the years. And like I said, I teach this in my class. But the key thing is whatever goals we establish through the strategic planning, what's the process to carry them out? Can you guys go to the performance target sheet? Okay, so that's a very simple system, but it takes a lot of time. For example, in my previous district, we had 12 buildings. I meet with every building, and I spend all day in the building, and I ask two questions. Tell me your success stories. Tell me what we're gonna do to enhance teaching and learning. And Kelly was one of my principals at Beech Grove, and we would sit down with her and her staff, and we would talk about what are we gonna do based on these. She's done these before. These are performance targets. And it's just a critical process moving forward for your school corporation. You know, as you go through and you're gonna look for another leader, the board, as the board leaders, this is something that you need to be thinking about, that you need to, whoever you hire, because there's this ongoing system that you put in place. And for example, I know you can't really read this, but this is Erin Probus, who is a superstar principal at Hornet Park. She's now in Perry Township as the director of, one of the directors of elementary ed. But this very simple form we created that basically you have your goal on your left, and then you have how you're going to achieve it in the middle. Now, I give my principals a lot of flexibility. They can take that and do anything they want to with that form. One of my principals at Westfield, she totally redid it. It was fine. And at Beech Grove, those were our goals at the top. Highly performing, strong community support, highly motivated staff. So all the goals within these plans have to be based on the goals of that district. If it's not, we don't do it. I mean, and that's something you have to decide as a board. What are your long-term goals? You know, from a facility standpoint, as you start thinking about down the road doing some facility work, it's got to tie in off your goals. It is critical from that standpoint. And again, green means it's completed. Yellow means it's in progress. Red means it hadn't started. I have no idea why blue's up there in ours, but it's kind of like using a stop sign. And we call this kind of a dashboard, because when you go home tonight, when you look at your dashboard, if you got lights on that are not supposed to be there, you're in trouble. And so we have dashboards and scorecards, and we look at data. But from an academic standpoint, it really goes down to the classroom of your teachers doing cognitive formative assessments. And some of your teachers may not be trained on it, but it's not hard to do it. Every social studies teacher at the high school, I don't see Mike, but I know, I saw Mr. Blank's room over there. If you have two history teachers, they should be given the exact same test. On same quizzes all the way through. But you have to measure. You know, just because you give a test doesn't mean it's a good test. So there's a lot to get into, but the key thing on system to system thinking is that you have your goals, you know, as the district. Each building, I see two principals here. You're going to have your goals based on the middle school and the elementary that'll tie back to the district, especially obviously the academics. You know, one would be retention of teachers. You know, and there's some things you're going to have to do long term if you want to keep teachers here, looking at salary and benefits and things like that. And that's hard to do in today's tough economic times. But that in essence is what system, I mean, I could go through all that PowerPoint, but the bottom line is this, it's real simple. That as a board, you need to meet with the superintendent 3 times a year, and you're talking about goals. And that superintendent has to document using learning targets and performing targets how we're going to achieve those goals based on the strategic plan that you will approve sometime, hopefully this spring. Okay? And then the superintendent meets with the principals 3 times a year, and they have to bring their learning targets and performance targets. They have to bring their test data. You know, and that's in the form of what's called a dashboard, which is the most important things you measure 3 times a year, and a scorecard, which would be graduation rate. You know, it's important, but it's not the most important thing. And then they in turn meet with their teachers 3 times a year and do the same thing. So it starts with the goals and it ends in the classroom. But also, this process has everything. I'm thinking about what's going to be happening down the road on the next level of construction. It's got to come back to this. It's got to come back to your strategic plan, what you guys think are important. You know, the gym's been here forever. You know, this is the most unique gym I've ever been in my entire life. And I was told the story, the reason there's no court outside of the cement is the town trustees, when they built it, they didn't want to spend the extra money. And, you know, I coached here in 1984, and I walked in, I said, well, normally the floor goes over to the wall, but I was told they were very conservative. That was before the official school board days. But, you know, what are you gonna do with facilities? It's gotta come back to what your goals are. And, you know, because there's a huge list of things that you and the community might wanna do, but there's only a finite. So again, process is very simple. You establish the goals with the board. The board works with the superintendent. Superintendent is responsible. He meets with principals. Principals report to him, and they go to the teacher level. But it should be a nurturing. It should never be I gotcha. Okay. The one thing we all have to understand: people are at different levels in their skill set, and our job is to coach them up. I mean, that's what we need to do at every single level. We got to coach them up and coach school boards up. You know. Coach superintendents, we all got to get better, and that arrows go both ways. So, Trent, do you have any other comment? You and I have talked a lot about this.
So yeah, I'll just hit on what we discussed is I think this is the way you start marketing your school, because it's going to drill down into your classrooms. This is going to bring improvement in our students. There's no way to, we use the word hide. There's no way to hide from this type of thing, because you're going to be meeting with your principal to see where you're at in your goals. And if you're not quite accomplished it, well, great. Let's figure out how we get there. Like you said, it's not a gotcha. So it starts down in the classroom, builds up through the administrators, through the superintendent, through all of our directors, because we all have goals. And I think if we're all improving, well, that's where you start marketing your school, because you say, look at all these improvements we've made.
And I emphasize that. I talked to Jack and I talked to Brock the other day. I said, you have a two-pronged challenge here, like most schools in the state. It's not unique to Monroe-Gregg. You've got an issue because of Senate Bill 1, okay? It's there. You know, there's two ways to solve that. One is reduce human resources, which is not a good thing to do to people. And the other is to look at additional tax revenue coming in. My philosophy, my CFO, who's now the superintendent at Cloverdale, or at Cascade, he wanted to cut all these people. I said, no, we're gonna do it through attrition, okay? Because, you know, these people have families and everything, and that was my philosophy. And we cut $1 million out of our budget, okay? Which was a lot considering that, but we did that. And so as positions came open, you know, John Eighth has taken over. We're making a big decision on whether we replace people or not, trying to keep their livelihood here. The other thing is Chad, I thought, did a great job at the strategic planning. You've lost 40 to 45 kids. It doesn't matter why, but how you get them back is through marketing and communicating, and it's got to be constant. I'm helping one of my students is interviewing at Center Grove right now, and during her presentation in the second round, she's going to really hit on the blast. When I was at Beech Grove, we sent a newsletter to every parent every Thursday at 4 o'clock. And then David's an expert on this. He can tie into chimp mail to get that even going outside your parents. I tell you, I know right now that your neighbor to the north here is probably going to send a recruiting newsletter out pretty soon. And
I get them.
yeah, and we got to be on. You got to be on top of that. And that's why David's here. He's an expert on this. And we got to, part of this plan should be develop a marketing plan to enhance. I mean, this is a great school corporation, but we're kind of hidden, you know. And I think we can market it. I think we can bring people here. And I've even, Brock and I had a conversation, someone else, we had a conversation about, Hinkey's building some really nice homes over here. I know Mr. Hinkey. We should be out recruiting developers to come here to build houses. If the farmers are willing to sell, okay, we should be recruiting people to come here to build the right size homes that increase the AB. So there's a lot to this marketing that go into it, but it starts with your system and how you're gonna do it. So I'll open up to any questions with the board, any feedback or thoughts.
Great. I was gonna actually put Brandy on the spot for 1 second. Can you tell the board, you sent me and I think a couple other people an email about what you saw on Facebook that plays right into this, and David's gonna be able to talk to this too, so
Sure.
talk about that for me.
So, Thursday evening after our strategic meeting, I went home and, just killed some time on Facebook, and as soon as I open it, the first thing I see is a really, snazzy ad for Center Grove, recruiting them, come grow with us, and some really nice visuals. You swipe to the right, there's 3 more pictures of all the ways, and enroll here now, apply here. Do one more swipe, there's Eminence in their virtual school, and how, your child not struggling in the classroom, come learn with us. scroll more, and I mean, it was endless numbers of schools, and of course, I screenshotted a couple, which probably just made it worse. I kept getting more of that feed, and now I'm getting all sorts of wonderful schools available, that you can enroll in. But I do think that we are missing that. We can do a Facebook ad pretty easily, to just put our name out there, so.
I want to apologize. I didn't see that Mike was here. I said I didn't see Mike. He was back here hiding stuff. But it's that marketing. So I was up at Delphi yesterday. There's two or three really great restaurants. There's an Italian restaurant up there, another biscuit place. I met this. I got this delicious biscuit. It was great. But when I was there, I saw this card from Frontier High School. So Delphi, you have Frontier, you have Carroll, and then you have Tippecanoe, all in there. And we're in March, and I saw this registration for kindergarten in Frontier in Delphi. The superintendent of Delphi, she's sending letters out to everybody around. I mean, great school, but again, it's all about recruiting. And I joke, I went to Cathedral, so I understand how recruiting works. Of course, it's all legal with ISHA, but again, it's time to, no matter what you do in this discussion, you need to think about working with David, because he didn't have time to do it, and he may be here for the next 20 years. He does, but you've got to get someone that's constantly marketing, sending letters out. I got a ton of sample recruiting newsletters, but it's got to be constant. You got to get that message out of the great things that are going here. You want to keep the parents you have, and you want to bring others in, and you want to get people to come here and start building houses to increase your assessed valuation. So,
Two questions for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Like, talking about that marketing, right? Like, look, I agree with everything you said. I don't know, like, some of that's longer term than what I think
Yeah.
we've got right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got things we got to do soon.
yeah.
But like, with the marketing piece, like, is that normally done in-house, or is it normally a firm, like?
Well, I will tell you this.
Like, who does that? Like,
I think short term right now, you need to hire someone like David, okay? Because he's much less expensive than trying to hire a full-time person to do it. It'd be really hard for you to go out if we have to make cuts to do that,
Yeah.
but he's an expert at it. So what I did at Beech Grove, Melody Stevens was my board president. I had an education foundation position open. I brought her in. She did education foundation, and she was my communications person. The one thing I want you to understand, for every kid you bring in, it's 7,300. So if this marketing goes well, you might be able to hire a full-time person if you wanted to do that.
Sure.
But right now, you need to get someone like that. I mean, most small districts will not hire a full-time person. They might combine jobs, but you know, he's relatively cost-effective from my standpoint. And again, just think about this. So if he gets 10 kids, that's $70,000. You know?
no, I definitely get that, and I get the letters from Cascade, and I think that we've talked about that before. We absolutely have a big gap that we don't go out and market well. I guess I'm still struggling. I mean, like, it's easier to keep a customer than get a new one. Right? And I think that applies here as well.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, like, I think that's part of the fix. I think that's part of the long-term structural fix.
Right.
You know, I guess, you know, I'm in agreement, like, with the goals and things here, right? But we don't have this document right now.
Right.
Right? So I guess I'm just trying to say, okay, like, I think we've done the first steps here. How
Absolutely.
do we move it to the next steps?
So a couple things that you talked about. I think Mission Central is, let's keep the great people we have. And that's why doing a more ongoing newsletter. And, you know, and that's something David can work with the staff to help train them. Okay, you know, but that constant ongoing telling your success stories. I mean, boys volleyball is going down there. How many people in your community know that you have a boys volleyball team? You know, I don't know how new it is, but you know, it's now an ISHA sport. All the success, all you do and everything, is constantly getting that out there. And that's why the chimp mail, and that's why you're sending newsletters out. I don't know the percentage of your community members that have kids in school. David can find that. But that's the group you also want to hit. You know, and we talked about, one thing I mentioned to Trent is doing a gold card. A gold card, anybody 60 and older gets in free. It's, you know, we did that at Beech Grove. Now Robin Winston, as he does, is doing all over the state. And the reason is, one, those people have paid their dues all the years. You want to bring them in. They're great tools. We even allow 6-year-olds from other districts to get a gold card to watch their grandkids. But again, trying to get them to see the great things that we're doing. But yeah, there's a short term, and that's, you know, we got to keep the ones we have, there's ways to do that, and also start recruiting more to come in.
No, I mean, look, I think we got some big pieces missing,
Yeah.
and I think that makes kind of the short term harder.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
But you wanna do it cost effectively.
but you gotta, I mean, we wanna be smart, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's great to talk about, oh, we're gonna increase this and this and this and build houses, but that's years away,
It is.
right? I mean, that's not a solution.
But I think
for
that's the whole
house build
thing.
or
If
single home.
you wanna get the right builders coming here, and there's not a
Yeah.
right and a wrong, they've gotta see Monroe. I met with Mr. Hinkie when cause he lives in Westfield, his grandkids go to school there, and he was asking me about coming down this way. And I said, well, there's a lot of land in Hendricks County down by Cascade and here, and 70 runs through. Well, guess what? He bought the golf course, not because of me, but there's a great opportunity to start getting other people that level of housing to come in to build. And that, you're right, that's a long term. But by marketing the district is a way to do that, to bring people.
Completely agree with that.
Yeah, it takes time though.
Yeah, no, right, okay.
Well, we gotta get more kids in, and we gotta keep our kids. That's kind of step number one.
And I don't want to railroad your conversation here, but I'm just trying to think, because I know we're already going to be running late, and I think we got, trying to figure out what are we trying to accomplish tonight? You know, what are we here for tonight? I wrote down, you know, what are we here for? In my opinion, I think we're here, what do we do now? What do we need to do now? Marketing, just like what you're talking
Yeah.
about it, but I don't think that's the.
That's one side of the.
That's one side of the thing, but I think we need to talk about a very important topic, and I don't know, I just wanna make sure that we get to that, plus get the plan for, you know, what do we do now? What are we doing next year? Cause I think there's a lot of people that's needing guidance on what we're doing.
Well, I
What we need to
can
do.
sit down and listen, so.
Brock, what I think you're alluding to, and maybe we just say the word, right? I mean, I think we want to hear about a referendum, like, if we were to run a referendum, and I don't think the board is on board or not on board at this point, I don't think we know enough. Like, I know we had this discussion a couple of months ago, right?
Right.
And I think, you know, now we're 2 months later.
Right.
And we still got this looming issue, right? We gotta start to move in a direction of making some decisions. And, you know, in my view, like, if we said, oh yeah, let's do a referendum right now, I don't know how I'd sell it. I mean, I don't know what I would go tell people. And I think, you know, our job got a little harder with Mr. Provo exiting, right? So now we're not gonna have the captain to kind of message that, which I think makes it much more complex. You know, I don't think it's realistic to expect Mr. Provo to, you know, I know you're gonna give us 100%, but it's not fair to expect him to give 150% for the next 3 months. And that new person coming in July isn't gonna be up to speed, right? So, I mean, I guess I feel like there's all these conflicting things. So I guess I wanna assess how feasible is a referendum?
I can address that.
And then, you know, like, what pieces are we missing? And then I think that there's the parallel path of reductions. I don't know if it's RIFs or through attrition or restructuring, but there's gonna have to be something on the cost side of the equation too, is how I feel, right? You're gonna have to work both sides of this equation.
Right.
Revenue's a longer term, I believe.
And-
So,
And I think, you know, as far as the selling it part of it, I think let's just be honest, we cannot afford to lose. You know, that's what is at stake. I mean, the first message is, you know,
Well, can I
we
give you
can't afford it.
can I give you some timelines, what I know? Right now, there are 50 schools in the state that the attorney that you guys are using, that they're working on timelines. Most of those schools have not jumped out yet to say we're doing it, because they were waiting until the General Assembly was over, which was last week. So there is time to do it, okay? Dave and I, we have a what we call a ground game plan to do. And it starts with newsletters, it starts communication, because those newsletters become really important, how you communicate it out. It's having coffee and tea with me, and that's, you know, Trent, you know, and the other thing is, you know, your new superintendent can come on earlier than June 30th. You know, based on what they're doing, where they're doing, I mean, you can work through those things for them here earlier. But Dave and I we can get that started working with Trent, we've talked about that. But it's kind of for example, we're working with, I won't say a couple schools because I haven't announced it, one large school in Hamilton County. We're working with Mrs. Senawa, and he's on it. I mean, he's been on it. But we did their strategic plan 2 years ago. From that point on, he said he's doing a referendum. And so 3 or 4 other schools that we're working with are just planting those seeds right now. They're talking about fiscal. You don't have to officially approve it yet. You do it in June, July, and I think August. You have to do it by August. So you have time to say, you know, yeah, we're definitely gonna do it, but we really need to get started. And I know, I moved away, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago from here, you know, and I wouldn't say this, but I've been around this community to know, they love the school. They support the school. You just gotta message it appropriately. And like Brock and I talked to, you gotta look at the impact of Senate Bill 1, what they're gonna save, and, you know, right now, we don't know what it would be, but you're gonna be working with policy analytics to do that, so, but I think the important thing is, you know, to make a decision, yeah, we wanna move forward, but you still have until July if you decide you don't wanna do it. But I think, you know, making that decision, getting someone hired, I would not want any superintendent to do it by himself. Like I said, I'm helping 3 or 4 other districts, you know, right now. You guys are doing how many? 11, and maybe pick up another one. But the bottom line is, and I look at it this way, you know, if you don't do it, you're affecting the livelihood of people in the school district. Okay, I mean, Trent and I talked today about this, and we're talking about, you know, for some people, it may not be the major breadwinner, but it's a matter of their kid, you know, going to college or doing what else, and I look at it this way, and that's what I told the East Porter board when I met with them back in the fall. I said, the bottom line is this, you know, you start cutting people, you're cutting livelihoods. So why not move forward, at least try the referendum? If the community says no, they say no. Then you have to make wholesale cuts, start looking at programs and things like that. But you know, my philosophy is, you know, it doesn't hurt to go forward and see where you are in the community. And I'm optimistic this community, if you message it right and, you know, you go knock on doors and things like that, you can sell it.
Can you kind of walk us through what the steps of that are? I mean, like, what is the commitment? I have a friend that works in Avon School, and I've heard
Yeah.
the commitment that Avon did to
Yeah.
get this thing through.
And
it was hundreds of hours knocking on doors
Well,
by
I'll let you-
everybody in their building.
Since his company
you
did
know-
Avon, I'll let him, I know a lot about it, but I'll let him maybe.
And I guess the context of my question is, you know, I'm trying to gauge, do I think we would have the resources and support to do the door knocking and the, you know what I mean? The arm ringing, right? I mean, that's where my head's at right now.
Let me start by saying, I think the selling part of a referendum, your candidate is a terrible name. Your candidate is raise your taxes. The worst name, it's the worst candidate in the world. However, that can be tempered by the rate that you are going to ask for in terms of the increase. So in some districts we're working with, it's, you know, $7 a month. In other districts it's 21. So you can guess which one is easier to sell. So that helps, having that knowledge in your preparation if you're going to move forward with the referendum. If it comes back and an FA comes back, or policy analytics comes back and says it's $36, I mean, I've looked at the demographic and economic data for the area. That's tough. That would be a tough. You couldn't sell it. That will not pass. So step one, if you would, is understanding what that rate would be. And if you do the math, you come back and you say, hey, it's $14 a month we're looking at for the median house, you know, property value. And that's something I think you could sell. I went to Starbucks today, and hell, a cup of coffee and a piece of bread cost me $14. So so that is something that's more doable. So I think that is one step.
So that you're saying, when you say $14, that's $14 a month?
Yes.
That's what a referendum would cost,
Yeah.
an average homeowner, $14 a month times 12.
In his example.
In his example,
Yeah.
but,
So we need to pinpoint our need.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, on Monday's board agenda, you'll have the opportunity, if you wish, to approve working with policy analytics. They can do drill down data to individual taxpayers that will give you guys a better idea, and then Chad Blacklock can get involved too with what are we really looking at? Like how much of a rate increase do we need to do what we need to do here at school? So you'll have the opportunity to work with them to do that if you so choose.
But the second part of that question in my mind is do what you want to do, right? Like,
Yeah.
we got to define that,
Yeah.
right?
But we talk about
I
if
mean,
we're
is
gonna
it
do it, we need to do it for
right?
a decent amount,
Yeah.
if we're gonna go forward.
Well-
Yeah, because you don't want to keep going back.
Right, we
Right.
don't wanna keep doing this every,
No.
2
Well,
years.
I think that's, you know, part of the role of your principal is working with Trent, say, okay, there are some things, is there low-hanging fruit that we can eliminate, and especially if we can do it without cutting positions to attrition, et cetera, you know, what can we do to, you know, kind of lessen that? And maybe there's a combination. But, you know, making that decision and start the process is really important. I mean, again, I'll emphasize, just because, you know, you hire him to do marketing or hire me to work as a referendum, you know, if you come, you know, June, I don't know what your timeline, I know you got a timeline from Ice Miller, you come to the point you decide not to do it, well, then you've only lost the, you know, the resources you paid during that time.
Right.
Okay, so, you know, but the bottom line is this, I just look at it this way, you know, and it was good to go down to the gym and just kind of walk through and bring back some old memories of my daughters playing in there and everything else, but I am just very optimistic. If you're reasonable, I think this community will support it, because you didn't cause this. This is not caused by any malfeasance of any of the superintendents, especially the handsome superintendents out there, and the good-looking lady. But this is not your fault. This is Senate Bill 1, okay? $330,000 just on a part they threw in the bill at the end, and the lit for this school district. That's huge. And I still haven't seen the impact of the homestead credit reduction between now and 2031, which, again, policy analytics can get that for us. But you didn't cause it. But you can help solve it and get us back to at least a level playing field. Because you have to think about, okay, what do we need to get us through to 2031? Because in Senate Bill 1, the homestead deduction is going to increase up to 2031, which means people's taxes are going to go down. And where's that, and again, Brock and I talked about this, where's that thing, as it's going down, can we raise it? For example, when Speedwell won their first referendum, they won it for like 75 cents. They didn't charge the whole 75 cents.
Right.
So let's say you go 25 cents, and I just want to emphasize, I'm not saying, but it may only take 20 cents or 15 cents to get us level going forward. And then as the other, I mean, there's a lot of different strategies with this that we have to look into. But again, I just look at it from my perspective. If I had kids in the school right now, grandkids in the school, I would want to move forward to see where we are and attempt it, because, you know, it's one of those things, you know, you're gonna miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I've got that.
What's the worst thing that you've seen happen, like on the very few that you didn't go through? Like, you just don't get your referendum, you lost your time?
Well, fortunately, all the ones I've worked on, we've gone through.
Well, okay, well, I think you said there was one in Texas, I thought that.
Yeah, but I was.
But you weren't part, but yeah, you knew
Yeah,
about
they came
it.
back the next year, did it again and won.
Okay,
Go ahead.
but I just didn't know if there's like, I mean,
Sure,
you just
Lake
out the
Station.
time.
Lake Station's a school district in northwest Indiana, a little smaller than you all,
Yeah.
population-wise. And they lost, I helped them, I was on 3 referendum with them. We won the first one, they went back for a renewal, and they lost by like 17 votes. We had told everyone if we lose that referendum, then transportation was gonna take a hit. So the superintendent, Dr. Kripliver, put in place, after they lost the next semester, they cut busing 2 days a week. So kids were gonna get bused 3 days a week. Those 2 days a week were e-learning days. So there was no school, so someone had to stay home with the kids. And I just did the e-learning for the first time with a 7-year-old. I would rather go to work. And that impact, so now some mom, some dad had to take a job cut,
Right.
they had to take pay, they had to take some time, because now they had to stay home. That was in November of 22. So we come around to November of 24, they ran for it again, and they passed it by 113 votes. Because it didn't just hit a pocketbook.
Right,
hit
it hits their
livelihood, it hit culture at home. So that was one I've been on, look, so we've worked a number, and we've been successful about 80% of the time. So, I mean, I've been on my share of losses, and they all take different hits in different ways, different school districts. Smaller school districts, more rural, seem to take it harder.
And so, to also, what he means is too, is like, we're not gonna try to find, well, where can we really hit people where they'll pass this? No, we need to come up with, logistically, if the referendum doesn't pass, what are we not gonna be able to
do, yeah.
afford? So it's not about, let's figure out where we can really hit people. No, we don't wanna take that. It's gonna be, what can we not afford, that we're gonna have to be very honest with people, like, if this doesn't pass, we can't afford this anymore.
But how do we get that? Because I feel like we had this exact same conversation 2 months ago.
Well, I think, again, I'll make a comment about Mrs. Sinowal, because we're working with them. Jeremy, bottom line, from a fiscal standpoint, if they don't win, they can't transport kids. Okay, that's the bottom line. So in the state of Indiana, they passed a resolution last month saying if they don't win the referendum, transportation will be eliminated. I did that at Beech Grove twice. In the first two referendums, I'm very clear, you didn't have to pass a resolution the first time, but the second time you had to do a resolution ahead of time. We passed one, the board said if we lose, we can't transport kids. Now, I don't know your fiscal situation, say you have to do that, but I think all the cuts that the principals have in mind, and working with Trent, I think you gotta get that list together, and that becomes part of the campaign, is that if we don't win, I mean, right now, you charge for athletics, right? Okay, well, you may have to double or triple that, you know? I mean, there's just, you have to lay out the game plan of what it's gonna take to get to that balanced budget. And if those cuts hurt, I mean, for example, right now, Bloomington, when they won the referendum 5 or 6 years ago, they were eliminating all coaching positions. That would be something I would do here, no offense.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the bottom line is, I don't know what we pay in extracurricular, but it's a lot of money. You know, and so you have to start thinking of those things, you know, what are you gonna have to do? You know, and again, I already told Manette, I'm not promoting cutting transportation, but the reality of it, that your loss, which I'm not sure we totally know the whole loss yet.
Not the whole, but.
You know, I know it's 330,000. How many people do you have to cut to get there? You know, your class sizes in elementary are very crowded. You know, I don't know middle school, high school, but, you know, and there's transfers, a lot of things with school budget you have to consider. But, you know, just my philosophy is I've told boards, you know, if you think you got a chance to win, you gotta go for it. Make your list of what you're gonna cut if you don't win, and then if you don't win, you gotta cut them. You know, that's the reality of it.
I mean, I guess I agree and I disagree, and this is kind of where my head's at, right? I mean, okay, if we're saying 300,000, let's call it 600, right? That we gotta make cuts.
Yeah.
It's a $22 million budget. That's less than 5%.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like devastating cuts, and I get you impact people's lives, but you also impact people's lives if you don't do it. Right? I mean, eventually, if you don't make the decision, somebody makes it for you.
That's right.
Right? So, I personally am okay with pursuing both paths, but I think you gotta work in parallel. But I also don't feel like our financial picture is so dire that it's make or break on a referendum. I mean, we're talking about $600,000 or $700,000 over several years on a $22 million budget. Will it be painful? Absolutely.
But you gotta divide that budget, you gotta divide the budget between the education fund.
I understand that.
And the operations
Right.
fund.
No,
mean,
I do get that.
Yeah.
I do
But,
get
and
that.
like I said, from what I understand, I'm not sure you really have that crystal clear picture
We
of
don't.
where you are.
I don't think we do, but I guess I'm just saying, like, you know,
Yeah.
And I don't think that those original numbers that we were presented before took into consideration the enrollment loss, did it? The 45.
Not the most recent, no, not the most recent couple.
So-
The 330 the other night was basically in the operations fund. It was not in education fund, I do
But-
not believe.
you could definitely make the argument, though, with decreased enrollment, there's decreased need for some people. I mean, I know it doesn't go completely linear, right? I understand that, but if you had fewer students, you technically.
I think there's a part of this, I mean, it's, obviously, there's a dollar thing behind it we gotta meet, I understand that, but we also have a responsibility to educate our kids. And I'm not so sure we're doing that with what we got.
No.
Let alone with doing that with what we have less. I feel like we have two problems. Bill, it'd be easy if we just had two problems, but in Brock's mind, we have two problems. We have a future problem, which I don't see how we do it without doing a referendum, because we need money to be better. I mean, it's just, I hate to say it, we got a good group, but we have to have money. I don't think we're gonna have it. I think the referendum, in my opinion, we need to get that referendum not to get us just to where we're doing okay, but get us to where we're doing great. I mean, I think use that
Agreed.
as a selling point. I mean, if we're gonna do it, I don't mind knocking on the door, but I wanna tell them factual information, but I wanna make a promise to them, this is where it's going, and I'm willing to go do that. I just don't know do you determine the amount of the referendum? Who determines?
So
I don't know.
I'll address that. So bottom line is this. Chad has given us some information. Hiring policy analytics on Monday, and then whoever, you know, like if you wanna hire me to start the referendum, we can start, knowing that if you decide not to, it will, you know. But getting him going on marketing is really critical, because those are little those are kids, those kids you want in the seat now. Because right now, again, that little Frontier card, they're doing kindergarten roundup.
Yeah.
And you wanna go out and start recruiting every little kindergarten, no offense, Steve, we wanna steal from Mooresville too, you know, but, cause they'll steal from us, but that's critical, no matter what you do, my opinion, you gotta get him in here and start marketing ASAP.
But are you just sending whatever we give you out and you're targeting the thing, or are you creating the marketing materials as well?
We're working as a team, so,
Yeah.
and again, we can have a work session and we can go really deep.
I don't necessarily want to do that, it's
No,
what
I'm
we're hiring
saying-
you for.
No, I mean, somewhere down the road, as we start thinking about referendum, it is so layered and so multiple. You know, everything from, not just the voter registration, but, you know, every group that you're meeting with, I mean, it's just, there's so many things that you have to do. Looking at, okay, who rents your facilities? Because guess what? Whoever rents your facilities, we're gonna have to triple that cost. So you go talk to them, say, hey, listen, that's what Miss Cinnawa's doing right now. You know, you go to every church in the community. At Beach Grove, before COVID hit, I was on schedule to go talk to every church and to tell them that our needs. I mean, it's a very comprehensive approach of what you do.
Where's that get laid out? Is that what you would do as the consultant? You would lay that out for?
Yeah,
I guess I'm
yeah.
just trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to transfer the theoretical to like, the
That's what
point,
he-
right? Like, who does that?
Working with Trent in the short term and your new superintendent going forward, that rests with us. Now, the decision, someone asked the decision on the rate, that's a board decision, okay? What the policy analytics will come up with different scenarios, based on 100 acres of farm, based on the value of a house, and you as a board will make that decision, okay, at the June or July board meeting, when you approve the referendum to go forward, so you got time on that. But you don't have time not to get moving and working.
But we're gonna make a educated decision based off the information that you guys
Yes.
are providing.
That's
us.
right.
That's
It's
what I-
not what we're not saying, hey, Tom, you know,
No.
well, what do you think it should
Blacklock
be?
will have a big role in this
Yeah.
too, cause he's gonna be looking at our budget with me
Yeah.
and be like, what's the dollar amount we really are
Yeah.
looking for here? And that'll help with the rate and all that too, so.
But I think we do as a board, and I think you alluded to it, and it's probably where my head's at too, right? Like, I feel like if I'm gonna go sell a referendum to somebody, I gotta be able to tell them what they're buying with that referendum, right? And if it's like, hey, I want a better school and it's gonna be this and this and this, I need to be able to present that and say, look, I wanna raise your taxes, but this is what it's gonna look like,
Just
right?
show them what's not gonna be here next
And,
year.
and I completely agree with that. I think that's different than going and saying we need a referendum so we don't have to get rid of busing. That's completely different, right? One's
Well,
like, oh, if you don't do this, you got this. The other one's like, hey, look, we really wanna go this
Well,
way.
there's
We have
multiple
to do.
layers, so the first referendum we
I don't
did
think
at
so.
Beach Grove, we said either you approve 35 cents, or we have to cancel transportation. We were, you know, Beach Grove has the worst circuit breaker loss of any school in the state. They collect zero in operations, but they also now have a larger referendum. The second referendum that we did, it was, and I'm not suggesting we do anything with the construction referendum, because you don't have to. But we came back and we focused on different things. The third one, it was teacher salaries, counselors, and main, because the bottom line is, you know, I guarantee your principals can give you data right now on the attrition of your teaching staff. And every time you lose a good teacher, it hurts. Now, again, I'm just throwing out, that's what we did. We looked at, we didn't bring up the transportation the third time because people, we thought they would support it. Second one, we got 70%. The third one, we got 65. But we were very specific. We were gonna give our teachers a $2,000 raise.
Right.
You know, because again, we don't wanna lose our good teachers. If you keep your good teachers, then the quality of education is gonna stay and get better. If you get your base starting salary up, you're gonna be able to hire more young kids coming from Purdue, Indiana, and Ball State, the Harvard of the Midwest. Oh, kind of Ball State guy, but I said, you know, they look at your salary. You know, they look at, you know, counseling and, you know, and that's why wellness is part of this. I mean, you know, that's where you're gonna have to decide as a board, you know, what do you want the theme to be? We can help on this, we can help market it, we can knock on doors. You know, I talked to Trent about coffee and cookies with Trent, you know, going out, and Jack and I talked about that. We talked going out and going into homes, but it's individual. Every person you convince to vote yes, they have 9 friends, okay? And that's how you have to approach it. Avon, and again, he was involved in Avon. I mean, they got to thousands of homes. Fort Wayne did not. Fort Wayne got blown, same type of districts. At Beech Grove, there are 5,000 high-frequency voters, based on the data that they provided. We knocked on 5,000 homes and our second referendum, we knocked on 5,000 doors.
That's the heavy lift I'm trying to get in my head. Do we have the resources?
You do.
Or do we have the
Because
commitment to do
you got
it?
dedicated principals, you got dedicated teachers, and they'll go knock on doors.
It's everybody, you gotta get everybody.
You'll get your
I guess that's my point though, but we're doing it with the transition of a superintendent as well.
It's okay.
So,
I will organize all that for you.
okay.
I think something to go, my brain just went, like, with what Tom was saying, it'll come back here, I'm sorry. What are we going out and selling, you know, I don't wanna use selling, but you're going out to sell a referendum.
Right, what are we getting for the
to
referendum?
do. And we're gonna do A, B, and C, and I would hope that we would do A, B, and C, not go out and sell it on A, B, and C, and then all of a sudden do D. But I think you also need to know, not only accountability, but like when you say, if we don't pass this referendum, this is probably what's gonna happen. Not scare tactics, not, you know, oh, you know, whatever, but legitimately, if we fail at this, what happens? You know, and people need to know that up front.
Yes.
And then if it doesn't pass, you know, hopefully it won't, you know, it's gonna be at least
Yeah,
to
because
be
like your last,
expected.
his last meeting he had with us was, I mean, you got to every single voter, you knew their grandparents, I mean.
We got all the data.
Yes, I thought that was pretty neat that you. were
And
able to
again,
pull
the
that.
bottom line is this, here's another
And then
key.
bar graphs.
Avon did a great job of getting their parents registered to vote. A school in Fort Wayne did not. They only had 20-some odd percent of their parents vote for the referendum up there.
And half of them may have voted no.
Yes.
Still
I
registered
heard that
to vote.
superintendent talk, and he said one of the big pitfalls they ran into is a lot of people who were registered didn't vote, because they said, well, we figured it'd pass. You gotta get to those people and say, no, you gotta vote no matter what.
That happened in Noblesville in their first
And
referendum.
when you get to that point, you have two groups that are working. So with the school district, you can only take the informational side, right? So you can promote, you can say, this is what will happen if this doesn't pass, and this is what will happen if it does pass. You can't, then you can't say, so you gotta vote yes, that's where the line is drawn. Then you have the PAC that takes on the advocacy side for the yes vote. And that's where the Avon, their PAC was, you know, we always say the PAC should look like the community. And proportionally, it should be, you know, if you have 6,000 people, you try to get, you know, 20, 30 people in the PAC. You know, 10% are really going to do things, they're gonna show up, go door to door, that type of stuff. Others, we're gonna do other things that are less labor intensive, maybe texting or making phone calls. So then you'll have a PAC that will be working. And superintendent, I understand you'll be, you know, won't be here through the summer, you have a new superintendent coming in. You gotta turn lemon into lemonades. That is a great opportunity for the new superintendent to be breaking out, getting into the community, talking with people, this is important, this is his new job, he's working here with the community. So he can be used as a recruiting tool for the PAC, because he needs help. So we could turn that messaging around so that's beneficial to us for the campaign. And then you have the data, and we have all the other messaging, the marketing, there'll be a lot of things, all the pistons have to fire for this to come together. But at the end of the day, I mean, the number is going to speak volumes. We can always do a survey of the community with like 6 to 8 questions where we can do it so it's scientifically valid, so we can get some real data in to say, you know, where's the pain spot for these folks in terms of income or what they can spend, what's important to them, what isn't important to them. And we'll also be sampling not just your parents, because your parents are all gonna say they want great things for their kids. But if you're 70 years old and you don't have any kids in the school, maybe you never did, you know, what do I care? I don't really care. We have to inform those folks that it is important that this is successful, because now we're talking about property values, and now we're talking about economics and finances. So
Right.
there's many facets to this messaging that we have to hammer out.
We can vote on this Monday, right? To get you guys started. Okay.
But, go ahead. I was, and I guess this is a question probably for you or Mariah, and I'd like your opinion too. I mean, you're a superintendent, right? Like, I keep going back to, and I mean, look, I do finance for a living, and I kind of do this, but in the private sector, which I understand is different, right? But when you retract, you still impact people's lives, and it still sucks, right? For lack of a better term. I keep coming back to, the cuts that we have don't seem like it's so doom and gloom on a $22 million budget. And I guess I want your guys' opinion on that. Is that, I mean, like, look, I get we don't wanna do it, and I think there's a ton of things we could do to improve things, but that's different, right? I mean, I don't wanna be forced into a referendum because we're saying, oh, if we don't, we gotta make cuts, right? I think those are completely two different questions in my mind. But I feel like, you know, you could get $300,000 in people through attrition like that.
Well, so again, counting Major Ball State way back when, I decided I wanted to teach, and, back in my younger days, but, so I understand numbers in that. And I would say right now, and again, I've not been involved in meetings, I think we have to ascertain that. And that's why I think it'd be important, let's take the next step, let's commit, we're gonna jump in, we're gonna get data, we're gonna policy analytics, principals work with him and say, okay, are there positions that we know if this position leaves, we don't have to replace it? I know, talking to Melissa, we got pretty large class size in elementary, right? Yeah, if someone leaves, it might be hard to cut there, but are there other places you can? Again, I don't know those things.
Right. No,
But I think you have to kind of go down this aisle together and say, this is where we are.
I absolutely think you work parallel paths on those two issues, right? I'm just saying, like, for me, I don't want to be forced into a referendum decision because I think that we can't make the cuts.
Yeah.
Because I think you can, and you can survive, and we can probably be smaller but better.
I think that the first round of cuts was just to get us through this year, right? Because the thing was they're gonna,
600,000 this year, 600,000 next year. and
it's gonna be
600,000 the next
substantial.
year.
I-
That's
told us
big.
that 1.7
It's
million.
1.7.
I understand.
Right.
And
I understand.
22 million includes debt and rainy day.
Right, but
So
if you
we're
look
talking
at
about
15 million of
paying off.
operating, right?
Then, yeah.
I mean, it's 15 million between education and operations. And look, I'm not trying to advocate for one way or the other. I'm not like looking to make people lose their jobs. I'm just saying, like,
Can I say
the
something?
realistic is you gotta live in your means.
You, as a government entity, you are, the folks, 30% of the of your voting population has some relationship with a child. That means you have 60% that don't have a kid. They won't think that you've cut enough. And parents feel, my experience has been, parents are a mixed bag. Some will say, don't cut anymore, and some will say, maybe you could get rid of the assistant coach for dodgeball, I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
it is. But the 60% of the folks who don't have a connection with a kid are going to not think you've done enough.
Right.
I mean, we can do a survey, but just my experience, it's probably
I
gonna
agree
come
with
back
that,
like-
but I think that goes into my head that I don't think a referendum is a slam dunk by any means.
I agree.
I don't believe that at all. And I mean, I don't mean this disrespectful, but I mean, obviously you're trying to sell us on a referendum. I mean, that's what you guys do. And I'm not saying you're selling us, you're trying to help us. I get that, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you guys obviously are pro referendum. I mean, I think it's a tool, and it's a tool we should probably explore.
But what other income are we gonna get to course correct? You know what I mean? I just don't know how this, I mean, we're on a ship going downhill and we don't have income to make other decisions other than cuts and then cuts. And so I don't wanna keep having meetings about cuts, so.
As Mariah, Kelly, me, Chad, even the directors and administrators have sat and talked about, because we gave them some ideas of goals we might need to hit for each year, 600,000 this year, or that sort of thing. Could, in year one, if we had to cut between 600,000 and 800,000 this year going into next school year, could we do it? Absolutely. We've seen it on paper. It's partly through attrition, but then it's also partly through there will be people losing their jobs. What gets real difficult, and Mariah and Kelly, please jump in here, is when we started trying to get to year 2 and 3
Right.
of how we make those additional cuts, it started getting like, how are we gonna function?
Right.
Like, what else do we cut to where we are attracting people here and not losing CTE teachers or our higher level math teachers and things like that? That's where it started getting difficult. Year 1, easier. Year 2 and 3 started getting like, how in the world do we function and draw people here? That's the problem we're having.
I won't disagree with that. But we gotta survive year 1 to get to
Yeah.
year 2 and 3. Year 3 could be a completely different budget from the state, as I understand it. Our enrollment numbers could change, our marketing plan could start to pay off, right? I mean, I'm not saying we don't plan for those. I'm just saying, like, I think
so.
year 1, you can probably,
There's two stories going on
two
here.
paths.
Correct me where I'm wrong. there's the 600 and 500,000 that Chad talked about at the last strategic meeting. That's out of the operations fund only. So that's not 5%, that's more like 12%, because the operations fund is $4.5
Yeah,
million.
No,
right?
I understand that.
Then there's the 1.7 that Chad talked about. That's out of the education fund. We're talking about a $12 million budget. So then you're talking about another 15% out of the education fund. So we're not talking about a 5% out of the 22 million. You're talking about what really comes down to where you spend your money. You're talking about a 15, 18% cut probably. And so that's, I think, where this conversation comes in. We're not talking about 5%, but we're talking about 15%, which really starts to add up.
No, I do get that. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think it's insurmountable. And I mean, I don't think, like, I'm not of the belief that it's referendum or else doom. I think there's a middle path there, is what I think. At least in the short term.
I don't know that, you know, I'm sure there's more than one or two passed, but I will tell you, sitting over here, I'm tired of hearing we don't pay our teachers enough, because we don't. You know, I'm tired of all the things that we need, you know, so there's a part of that I think on the referendum, why it's important, and maybe not gloom and doom if it fails, you know, immediately, but I mean, we're gonna jump off a cliff, in my opinion, and I just don't,
Well, if we don't do anything this year, we gotta wait till 28.
Go into 28.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not arguing against. I'm more than happy to listen to the analytics for the next couple of months.
yeah, and the referendum, to me, is a 10-month problem from now. I mean, you have to start it now, but that's something that's gonna happen in 8 months, right? Whatever, 7 months. What do we do in 3 or 4 months? And I think, and I know we have our principal, and we have a lot of people here. I personally would like to hear from the principals of what, you know, it's easy going to say, cut 5 people. Now, yeah, well, how do you do that and still function? What do they need right now to get through the next 6 months as we are? You know, in my opinion, just my opinion, I mean, I could see if people, you know, they need some guidance on what to do. If people retire, okay, maybe we don't replace them right now. But I am 100% against getting rid of people to do a referendum to have to turn around and hire more people back. I mean, I would like to see something. What do we have to survive if the election's in November, right? We'll know January, you know, what can we do between now and January? What can we get away with? And then what does it look like January on if we lose, or look like January on moving forward? But our short term, I mean, we got problems, but our short term problem is, I don't even know what Melissa needs. You know, I don't know what Manette needs.
No,
Can I make a quick comment then? Obviously, you want to hear from them, but, you know, I love retirement, okay? It's been really enjoyable. I've got a lot of fish on the Tippecanoe River, Lake Schaefer, in my house in Plainfield. But I do this because, and just like you guys, we care about kids, we care about people. And I guess one of my philosophies and beliefs is every decision we make as leaders and board, what impact is gonna have on kids? So as our principals start thinking about this, you know, it takes an entire village to impact kids. You know, I'm here today because my high school basketball coach and my college basketball coach, boy, they tapped me on the shoulder and, you know, made an impact on my life. Even the nuns I had a same impact in my life. But I, you know, I just constantly think about, you know, as we make decisions, what impact is that gonna have? You know, on that kid, you know, the assistant wrestling coach who has that relationship with that kid, you know, whatever it is, but, you know, and again, I'm gonna go home tonight, stop at IGA, they have really nice Italian subs, get a nice diet drink, and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be okay. But I think you have to think about the people and the kids and the impact if we sit on our hands and don't do this. And again, you don't have to hire me. You he can do, you can have to make the student extra,
Yeah.
but the bottom line is, you know, I've turned down doing some of these, just because, but, you know, I personally, I care about this district, but again, I can tell you 3 or 4 districts right now, if they don't win, they're not gonna survive. And, you know, it depends on what you want the district to look like and where you wanna be, but this is a kid decision and a people decision. And just my feeling is, you know, I mean, I'll run through a brick wall, to do what I can to help kids and help the people. Because, you know, we're in education for a reason. We're here to help people and watch them grow. You know, it's the day after graduation. Kids are gonna forget 70% of what they learn in school. 70% what they learn in school, but they're not gonna forget the people that impacted them. And this is a people business. And that's why I'm here tonight. You know, I'm here to hopefully help you guys so we can impact people. You know, and I'm an accounting teacher, I understand numbers. And like I said, you're not in a decision right now to say what might, this, that, and everything else. But, you know, you can't sit back on your hands now and not do anything. We gotta do something. We gotta do something, you know, let's get people going, let's look at numbers and, you know, but again, you have till June to make a decision on exactly where that number lands or if you wanna do it at all.
That's the go, no-go,
Yeah.
is June.
Yeah, well, it depends on the time, August is the dead, most schools are going in June. I'm not sure the timeline that they've given him, but most districts I've dealt with are going in June or July.
June, July.
So you got time.
Yeah.
Kristen McClellan from Ice Miller has sent us a timeline.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it tonight, but I'll email it to all of you tomorrow. It shows when we have to first take action and what the steps are
Yeah.
legally.
Yeah.
So I'll email the timeline to all of you tomorrow.
I guess all I'm saying is, look, I'd love it if I had 100% confidence that was gonna pass, and I have no problems going down that path. But I think we have to work the other path as well, is what I think. I think you have to go down parallel paths, in my mind.
Melissa, your school, your elementary school, used to have a sign out in front of it we were proud of. Was it like a 4-star school or 3-star?
We had
Two-star?
iRead, it was, 100% passed iRead.
But even before that, didn't we have like a 4-star elementary or something?
We were an A.
Yeah.
So when we were in A elementary school, how many aides did we have in the classroom, in the school?
Okay. Probably about 8.
How many aides do we have in the school now?
Those A's, 0.
And are we still in A school?
No,
I wonder why.
I can show you why.
I don't mean that in there, but that's what I'm saying. I mean,
right.
and we wonder why our test scores are
But
terrible.
I
And
have a slide to show you of everything
I was
we've
gonna
already
say,
cut.
why don't we go through that real quick, because that'll show you, the board, kind of the impacts we've talked about, and kind of, there's some scenarios we've went through of things that could be done if we went down the path of making some cuts, so why don't we, go through that, and she can talk you through this.
And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just trying to
No, she
change
was-
the,
she was planning on
the
doing this
conversation
anyway.
here. I mean,
Right.
let's,
And I have, for the board, it breaks it down money-wise, but this is a little more generic. But going back to this, I will say, well, let me show what we've already cut in the past few years.
To make
Go
it
up to slideshow, up there toward your
By the
right,
purple.
Middle right.
right, keep going right there. Nope.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh. I thought I had.
Do you want me to help you?
Sorry.
There you go.
Multiples.
Perfect.
it's the whole screen.
So in the past 3 years, the elementary, we have lost 2 reading interventionists, 1 math interventionist, 4 kindergarten aides, a title teacher, a behavior interventionist, a library aide, and 1 preschool teacher. The stakes from the state have increased that if our students do not pass iRead in 3rd grade, they're automatically retained. But yet we've depleted all of our interventionists where we're doing our remediation. And so that's fallen back on our teachers and our title program, which used to only focus on primary. The way I look at the difference between primary and intermediate, a 5-year-old's not independent. And so having 25 5-year-olds is like herding cats. Having 25 fifth graders, that's a different story because they're independent. But we're bare bones on remediation. And then I have some scenarios, but before I start on the scenarios of cuts we could make, this goes against anything I believe. Because research shows that this is not what's best for kids. But we were asked, how can we still survive and stay afloat? Because we do feel like we're on a sinking ship. And we're trying to keep everybody's spirits up. And so we've tried to look at what we have and what we could cut. But I would like to say that I would disagree about the referendum because this to me would be short term. Could we last a year and make it through until we got the referendum and then add, because we know that this is not what's best for kids? I think, yes, we could suffer a year and make it work. But if we don't do a referendum and do this, it's gonna look 10 times worse the next year. And so I can show you some of the options we have.
But that could be the reality. I mean, the referendum could fail.
And if it does, that's
I
the
mean,
community,
it absolutely
but we have
could.
to give our community the opportunity to make that decision.
I won't argue that. I'm just saying we gotta be
And I
prepared for
live in
both
the
outcomes.
community, so it affects me also.
Yeah,
That's
that's
why
right.
we're gonna do it right, and it's gonna
We're
pass.
trusting your vote and yes.
Right. So the first scenario, first of all, we have a probable, and I can't say for sure, but it's really probable that we would possibly have a total of 5 retirements in the elementary. But you can't expect the elementary to cut 5 people because all of those people are from the elementary. One is a special education teacher, and Dustin and I have worked together on how that would work. But one scenario, again, I don't approve of any of these, but is 4th and 5th grade if we reduce to 4 classrooms. If we did that, our 4th grade classroom, with our numbers now, so I looked at our 3rd grade class, it's 119, so next year, if we stayed the same, that would be 29.75 students per class. In 5th grade, 28.75. And that is without knowing our kindergarten enrollment. If our kindergarten enrollment is lower, we could go to 4, so that would be savings also. But right now, we don't know until we start enrollment. And then my goal would be that, so for example, if it was the PE teacher title in 2nd grade, that we would hire people that cost less than those who are leaving, if they choose to leave. And then we also have a part-time ML teaching position that we're not renewing. Not renewing, she's resigning, so we're not going to replace that. So you have the numbers on yours to show how we would save approximately $180,969.02. So that's one scenario. The next scenario is 4th and 5th grade reduced to 4 classrooms. Again, hiring lower paid teachers for those positions, the ML position, and if we reduce 1 Title A position. Also, which I'll get to the pros and cons at the end on how we can help with remediation with the 4 classrooms there. And so that's just getting rid of 1 aide. Right now, we have 3 Title Aides and 1 title teacher, whereas before we had 2 title teachers and 2 aides. And in that's $208,375.96. And then scenario number 3 is if we went to 4 classes in 1st, 4th, and 5th. But again, remember the scenario of 1st grade and kindergarten, they're not independent. That's a lot of kids without an aide, but that would be approximately 25 kids in the 1st grade classroom, and the rest the same for there. The 4th scenario, I don't agree with either, but of course, living in this community, we've heard this over and over and over about absorb 1 5th grade position, and then sending 4 teachers to the middle school and moving the 5th grade to the middle school, and having, I don't know what it would look like if it would be a 5th, 6th grade academy. Reduce 1st grade to 4 classes if you just did 1, and then that would save us the same amount, the $208,375.96. But it also would add space to the elementary, which that's what we're struggling with also. Again, I don't agree with any, but we were asked to show what we could do and still survive. You'll go to the next So the pros, one specialist teacher, if we had, if fourth grade and fifth grade, or if we even had the 3 grade levels that go to 4 sections again for 1 year, we could use the extra specialist teacher, because when you have 5 sessions, we have the 5 specialists. But when there are only 4 classes, we would have a licensed teacher that could push into 4th and 5th grade for remediation. And then we could just focus our title on K through 3. Because right now, we've watered down title, we're doing K through 5. And it's a lot for those teachers there. 3 intervention sessions per day would equal 15 remediation sessions per week, or 2 intervention sessions per day would equal 10 sessions per week. Right now, for 5th grade, we're only having 1 session a week because of the way their schedule is. The title team could focus exclusively on K through 3 interventions to strengthen the foundational skills. If 5th grade moves to the middle school, we can reduce our lunch times by ½ hour. Our lunch schedule is 10:10 is the first lunch, and we're not finished until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that would be a benefit there. And then cons, only a few of the cons. Grade levels with 4 classes. Class sizes would be approximately 30 students per class in 4th and 5th grade if enrollment does not increase. If we are unable to secure a substitute in 1st, 4th, or 5th, we would not be able to split the classes because you would have up to 40 kids in a class, and we can't do that. Insufficient cubby storage areas, there's not enough hooks, so I've already purchased hooks, and we're just nailing them into the bookcases so that children have a place to hang their coat and their backpack. Any additional move-ins would require adding another section, creating staffing and space challenges. 4 classes in 1st grade, students are not yet totally independent. So pros and cons, but in the end, it's your decision on what direction we go in.
Where would our test scores be?
Where would they be?
I think one of our biggest hits at the elementary was the loss of our interventionist. So we've watered down title. We've lost 1 licensed teacher in exchange for keeping 3 aides. So they are responsible for all of our early literacy intervention as well as 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So like our 5th graders get a win time 1 day on Friday for 1 little small period. So title has to pull all of those kids, get them in their groups, provide some interventions. Whereas before, when we had 2 reading interventionists, they were pulling kids all day long, every day.
Were those the resources with ESSER money?
No, actually.
Because I know we
it
hired
was-
interventionists, I thought, with ESSER money for COVID recovery.
No, well, so that's what it was supposed to be, but it was not paid out of that.
We've always had a reading interventionist.
Mhm.
And then when we've always had a reading interventionist for a very long time. That position has been there. When we got ESSER money, we added additional 1. We added a math back. We used to have a math prior to when we had a computer lab, and then we were asked to combine positions then to save money, so we lost our math interventionist at that point.
And that's what scares me, because I was told if I got rid of that math interventionist for 1 year and got a licensed teacher in the computer lab, that I would get it back the next year, and we did not get it back. That's what makes me nervous about all of this.
So is an interventionist, are they a licensed teacher?
Yes.
So they are a licensed teacher.
So just a little bit more, just the structure of that, which Kelly kind of mentioned. So with our title and, K through 3, we had those students who came in that were having struggles, were getting remediation. And it was able to be pinpointed and focused. And then, because I was still in the classroom at that point, from 3rd through 5th grade, we had the interventionist for reading and math, and that provided, they were focused solely on 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And so they were getting daily remediation as well. The other aspect of that is, right now what we're doing, well, our teachers, to the best of their ability, they are differentiating, pulling groups and things, but when you combine that with the possibility of our 4th and 5th grade class sizes getting bigger, I mean, that's a huge ask to have that many students in that classroom where you're trying to remediate with a small group that's over here, and then you've got 25 kids that are doing something else, with no additional help in the classroom.
And I will just add real quickly, from a special education perspective, the lack of intervention early on in the process is causing our numbers to increase. If you look at all of those decrease in staff, over the last 3 years, we've increased our special education numbers by over 10%. And so we are quickly approaching those thresholds of 20–25% of students with IEPs. And it's a direct correlation to not being able to intervene early on in their education careers. And so what that also brings, which should speak to us, is the potential for litigation for not having adequate intervention, and the child find issues and all of those things that could potentially lead to due process in the special education arena.
So are you saying, are we spending more money than we're saving?
Potentially. we will
Long
get
term,
there.
we're spending more money than what our short-term savings were by eliminating those positions?
Yeah, we get funded through special education Part B funds for the total number of students that we service. However, it is not adequate enough to cover all of the expenses.
We spend beyond what we get from the federal government for special ed resources, well beyond it.
By far.
And if you have a disproportionate amount of kids in special ed based on your total population,
It's a finding.
then you get a finding, and then it's cold to me. And I just want to emphasize what he said about the early intervention. It is critical. You know, if you don't put the resources at K1 and 2, your special ed population's going up. You know, if we don't get the kids reading at those early ages, they're gonna test for special ed, which is gonna be a costly thing down the road. And more importantly for the kiddos, you know, they're not gonna be able to learn. And you start taking resources in K3, it's critical. It's really critical. And that's what Senate Bill 1 is doing to schools throughout the entire state, not just Monroe-Gregg.
But we cut some of those positions before that bill even was around.
Correct.
So we can't blame it all on.
No, but you're right.
Can't blame it all on that. I mean,
No, but it's gonna get worse.
yeah, I
What we're
understand.
saying is we already cut that.
Yeah.
The next cut goes an entire level deeper.
Right.
And then you're looking into the future again, if you're gonna cut even deeper from there, what's left on our end?
I'm not gonna.
I think that's what we're showing. We realize, yes, there needs to be cost savings, we understand that. But if there is not a path that is saying we're going here and here, we understand it's gonna have to happen, but we gotta go forward. And I think that's what we're saying, we need to go forward, we need to make cost, but we need to be aware that if we don't make changes on our end for our kids and say money towards this referendum would go towards this here and help our kids in the long run, parents are gonna see that. They're gonna see we put these interventions into place and my kid's going to get more things and they're gonna go from there. And then your teachers will be less stressed, which means they're more likely to stick around. And then teachers who move in are going to see, oh, there are interventions and how to help. So it is a chain reaction by putting money in a specific place that is gonna help us as a district as a whole in the long run.
So that would be the sell for a referendum.
There's your sell.
I mean, one bullet point, you know, I'm just.
No, Rick, I completely agree with that.
Right, at the time, I understand, you've gotta,
And I can
We're done with our
promise
budget,
that our
but-
teachers will go door to door. I mean, we will all get out there and knock on doors. That's not a problem.
As
But
we,
I wanna know the whole district, what are we gonna do?
I mean,
Not
I guess
just the
this,
elementary.
look, this isn't gonna make me any friends, especially in this group, right, or in this group, but like, have we looked at administration and central office and things like that as well as we've kinda gone through this? I mean, look, there's no sacred cows here.
Correct, there are scenarios with decrease in administration. I mean, I'll throw one right out there, we discussed it, and that's going back to a true, junior, senior high school. You do that, you don't need as many administrators. And there's some other cost savings that could be there. There's also some cons to doing that.
Sure.
We've looked at what we would do here if either through attrition or whatever in the central office. We already, Mariah's already talked about, she's retiring a year from June, but she's also thinking about reducing her hours in general. That's gonna be a cost savings there. So yeah, there's no sacred cows. We've talked about all scenarios involving.
Sam's taken on more with the loss of.
Correct, we did replace a five-star tech, So, yeah, it's hitting everywhere.
Yeah, look, I mean, look, nobody likes any of this, right? I
Right.
mean, look, I'd love to give you everything you want, but, you know, I mean, ultimately, we can't do that. So we gotta figure out what's the most impactful cost-wise that has the least impact on students as we pursue possibly the other path. I mean, I just see it as two, gotta go down both paths. You can't just wait.
I think what I'm struggling with is I still don't know what decisions you make now and what decisions you can make in January. You know, like if the, you know, for instance, let's say the sixth grade to seniors all falls under one administration. I mean, yeah, that's there's a savings there, but is it the best for the kid? You know, is it the best thing to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that we need to do regardless if we pass a referendum or not? You know, if it's something that we need to do regardless if we pass a referendum or not, I'm probably okay with making those decisions. But if it's something that if we pass a referendum we don't have to do, I don't want to make that decision now.
Yeah.
I mean, just like I don't want to, I mean, I have to keep repeating myself, I just, you know.
You don't like firing people.
Yeah, I don't really.
That sucks.
I don't know of any schools that are 6 through 12 that have one administrator and an assistant principal. That goes back to kids and meeting their needs, that'd be pretty challenging. But again, if you lose a referendum, you may have to go that direction, but that would be pretty you know, that's a lot of kiddos.
The kids and the parents, when we had 7 through 12 here, my kids, the kids and the parents were a whole lot different than the kids and the parents that we have today. And if you don't believe that, you gotta get your head out of the sand. Because and that impacts the workload of your counselors, of your principals who have to deal with discipline.
But the middle school doesn't have a counselor, so.
No.
So all day today, all we did today was work with students and Facebook response. That's all we did today.
And police
Yeah,
involving
and,
it.
yeah, like, we can't work on instructional things. I didn't get to one classroom today to help teachers. That's from the minute I walked in until I came down here at 6:15. So if we want to combine that, then that would be like one high school administration with 2 people here, that's all we did. So we are quite limited on what we can do in the middle school, even though we have less students and less grade levels, we don't have less need happening there. And because we don't have support with our mental health situation that happens in the middle level and beyond into high school, it's quite challenging. Yeah. From a middle school angle, I've looked at this 100 different ways. I can get super creative, but that means we cut the things that kids like fine arts or gym, because I can't cut math, science, English, or social studies. I have one teacher for each grade level for each of those subjects. They're licensed specifically for those subjects, except the 6th grade teachers can teach, a lot of them are K through 6 licensed. So then I have one art teacher and one PE teacher. The rest of my teachers are shared. So I share 8 teachers with the high school. So there's only, so like from the middle school staff angle, there's just not a lot of staff member that is just middle school staff. In the 4 years that I've been principal, we've lost one full-time teacher that was an extra English language arts in 6th grade, which obviously we need. We cut the 2 interventionists that were paid with ESSER funds. We've lost 5 assistants already. So yes, our test scores are poor, but we're working really hard to combat all of that. We will try to increase our CTE courses, and that brings in money. By sharing with the teachers, we have PCC, which is $150 a kid. We're already doing that with 8th grade, and we can increase intro to ag students, which is $299 a student in that. Maybe some other intro courses, but again, I only have so many teachers to work with. And there's only so many periods. If we cut teachers or we cut electives, then we cut our day. Because I don't have a place for them to go.
Does that get better under the model where it'd be 6 through 12, because you share teachers with the high school and you got, and look, I don't know how to run a school necessarily, I'm just thinking out loud, right? But like, I know there's courses in the high school where you got a classroom of size of 5 or whatever, I mean, I hear about that all the time from people, right? I mean, is there a chance if it was combined that shared teacher resources between the two would be a benefit? Or is that
You might-
to be determined?
I would think 1 or 2, I think we've looked at that, but we're already sharing 8 now.
Right, no, I get that, so.
Problem, Tom, is teacher licensing is very specific to the middle school and high school. Every single teacher in the middle school and high school has a very specific license that only lets them teach specific things. For the elementary to 6th grade, we have a more general license, which lets us move around a little more. Once you get up there, if they don't have a license, we can't have them teach it.
Okay.
So you now have one certified teacher in 7th grade that has that 7th grade license. They don't have another option. It's not like we can say, well, you teach part-time here, and we'll split those classes and put them together. That person doesn't have a license. We want them to get that license, they gotta go back to school. They gotta pay for that. They gotta take the test. They gotta do that. So it's not happening. The problem is, and going into the high school, you're looking at AP people. There are only so many people certified with an AP teaching degree. Like there's a lot less wiggle room when you're looking at those specific things and we trying to combine that we think we could save money that we can't because we need teachers with specific licenses and we only have so many.
No, I get that. I guess my concern is, or my thought is, you know, I mean, and look, I can do this too. Everybody can do this. The reasons we can't, right? But we might have to. I mean, like, look, if we go down the path of a referendum, it doesn't go, we're gonna have to do something.
Correct.
Right? So, I mean, we gotta have that plan. It doesn't mean we have to pull the trigger.
So you're saying you wanna pursue a referendum, you wanna pursue cuts, but you want the plan if the referendum doesn't pass.
That's what I want. Yeah, I wanna know like what
So
the
you want
options
to
I think
are.
we have to have that plan
Right.
in order to accurately
I mean, we have to,
sell or advertise or whatever you wanna call the
Yeah,
referendum.
I think
We
if
have to
you-
know the worst
you
case
have to
scenario.
know that.
By law, you're gonna have to have a spending plan, so you have to be able to show people, here's what we're gonna spend the money on, but then you also, I agree, have to show people, here's what's gonna happen if we don't.
And you better be ready to execute on it, right? Cause you're gonna have to do it quick.
Correct.
So when you talk about classes of 5, how many classes are we talking?
I don't have any idea. I hear that a lot.
Mhm.
I hear that and I hear about classes, and I don't know if this is even true, where, you know, it's an online course and we've got a teacher kind of, you know, in the
Well,
classroom.
that's what my question was as I looked through things.
I don't know.
If we have a licensed teacher teaching an online course, why?
No, I hear both of those, and I don't know if they're true or not. I don't have a kid in the school anymore, but I don't know.
Right.
But that's just something I have heard a lot of.
Well, some of your
And that-
more advanced classes, you're gonna have fewer students
Right.
until we start pushing more students to start taking some more of those challenging courses. And then that, you know, that's a whole different ballgame, but that, I mean, okay, like, anatomy and physiology. Not a lot of kids are going the medical route, so there may be 8 or 9 in there, whatever,
And I
but yet you
understand
want, you
that,
still
right.
wanna be able to offer those courses.
Right.
You know,
But do we have, I know that we had talked, I don't know if Mike is gonna, but if, we have kids taking courses that are not, that we are offering with a live teacher.
Right.
yeah.
So, but I know there's some scheduling things also, like if they're at, Ben Davis
Davis.
and they miss that, I understand that. But the numbers that I saw, I mean, it's a lot.
Mhm.
To put it in context for you, we have 40 periods at the high school that have 10 or less kids.
Okay.
I guess what I'm, as an elementary principal, I'm gonna say, I wanna fight for our elementary too, it
Oh,
can't
sure.
all come from the
Right.
elementary.
No, absolutely.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was thinking, you know, if we have, this is just me, if we have high school students sitting in a classroom on a computer taking a class, and we have a licensed teacher doing that, probably shame on us already, in my opinion. You know, if we are short-handed everywhere else, why are we doing that now? You know, that would be I mean, I think that would be a cut that you.
Health,
Huh?
that's it. Health is what we're doing that with. I don't know any other classes that we have a teacher,
But why are we doing it? I mean,
You do for business, they use it as curriculum to supplement what they're already doing. Two of the business teachers do, but help, yes.
And look, I don't think we have to have that debate tonight, it's just, it's just something.
I think we do. I mean, like, don't we have to vote on this on Monday? I don't mean for you.
I don't think we have to vote on the cuts on Monday.
Oh, so
No, we don't have to vote
know how much
on
we're
budget
cutting, right?
cuts. I mean, I think this is a
I think-
discussion of how do we get there over the next couple of months, I believe,
Well, I'll
right?
be honest with the elementary, I have to know who I have and who I don't.
So, what I was gonna say is, if there are gonna be cuts made, the decision's gonna have to be made March, early April.
Right.
There's no doubt about it.
I have people leaving that they haven't officially, but they're moving. I'm gonna have to hire people, and if we don't make these decisions, I'm not going to have anybody to choose from, because people are hiring now.
I won't disagree with that, but I mean, as a board member, I don't think I've seen any real concrete plan on anything. I mean, we've talked around a lot of ideas and
I
things,
thought
but
that's what this
That's what we
was.
were doing tonight. I thought.
does anybody feel like we've walked out with any concrete idea here tonight?
well, I don't think we can walk out with it. I mean, I think
can't make a
we can't make a decision, but I think, I was hopeful that we could have conversations, so people could have an idea what we're doing.
Right,
I mean,
so what
it
we
is March
provided-
already.
What we provided so far that you guys have seen is, we have one scenario out there that shows where we could cut about $800,000 between, education fund and operations fund. That's there, I mean, that's, you guys have seen that.
Mhm.
Now beyond that, there's more discussion that can be had there.
But it was kind of cafeteria style, if I remember right. I mean, it was like a
Yeah,
bunch of,
it's-
bunch of options, right?
Correct.
I mean, I think.
You don't have to do it all, you could do some,
Right.
but I think we at least put together like, here's the things we could do.
I think that's what I'm looking
Can
for.
I read our staff, just so everybody, because I keep hearing the same thing about numbers of kids in classes. We have 3 math teachers, we have, again, 9, 10, 11, 12, so that's 4 grades. We have 4 English teachers, 3 social studies teachers, 4 science, 2 world language, that's a French and a Spanish, 2 business, 2 fine arts, 2 ag science, a third of a PE teacher, 1 radio TV, and 3.5 special ed teachers. That's our staff.
Right.
Are we overstaffed? I mean, we're missing a math teacher. We lost a math teacher. So we're piecemealing with Andrew and Zach Clampy, who's a special needs teacher. So I mean, if you're looking at the high school, we'll have to cut pathways, electives, like cut out a whole business, take business out, or fine arts, just, I mean, that's, where in our building, do we have too many teachers in a department? We have students coming and going from Area 31, we have students coming and going to jobs, we have students who, because we offer so many classes, high school to 8th graders, when they're seniors, they're able to come to school later, so that, I think the traditional high school that everyone thinks about when they were there, it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's a little more collegiate, the way high schools are run now, and it's gonna get worse in that way, because of the internships and the, work-based learning experiences, things like that, so. I mean, from our building, I guess you would have to look at like, a pathway and say, yeah, we're just gonna take that out, if you were wanting to cut, but.
So take this for what it's worth, I'm not gonna be here to live this, but I'll give you my opinion. At one point, Tom, I probably would've been more like you to say, I think we need to make some cuts and let's still run a referendum. I think where I'm at now, after hearing everything, you know, I appreciate everything these administrators have done. You guys have come to us, and directors, you've come to us with, here's what we could probably survive without, but none of them, and I wouldn't be doing it if I was in your seat too, none of them are gonna sit here and say, yeah, let's do this, let's cut this.
Right.
I don't blame you at all, I wouldn't be doing, I lived, Melissa, I told you, I lived it as an elementary principal, where the cuts always came from elementary buildings, and high school, middle school never got touched, and I didn't wanna do that to you guys, that's why I wanted to have this conversation. I am more of the opinion now, because unless you want a top-down approach where I come to you guys and I say, here's what we're cutting, because God love them, they don't wanna do that. They don't wanna make those decisions, and I understand that. That's part of why you hired me, to make those not fun decisions. My opinion would be to do what Paul is saying at this point, and maybe make little to no cuts right now, run your referendum, and the community's gonna have to understand that if we do not win this, you have to be prepared for X, Y, and Z to happen immediately. That's kind of where I would be at this point. Once again, take it for what it's worth, because I'm not gonna be here to live what you guys are gonna have to live, but just hearing everything I've heard, because for us to make cuts, it's gonna have to be very soon. And we could get there, but I just feel like it's gonna have to be a top-down approach where me and some other people just decide for everybody. Now, you can do that, but
That's easier,
that's tough.
to me, that's easier to make after we fail a referendum.
Very possible.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if we win a referendum, the first time we'll see money is in June of?
January.
We'll see it in
You'll
January?
see January 1st of 2027.
So
And
it'll start improving
Immediately.
quickly.
And also keep in mind, if we can start marketing, which I'm optimistic we can, you'll see that impact. You'll see it in December. It'll be retroactive. You're gonna get your, who does the DOE form for anticipating students?
I just submitted it.
Okay, yeah,
It's
okay.
due by the end of the month,
Yeah.
so.
So the bottom line is, you're gonna know on, October 1st now, right?
Yeah.
October 1st, you're gonna know where your enrollment is. That's gonna be a stepping stone. You lose a little kid, you lose some kids in February, not as much as most urban districts. So you're gonna have, this is where we are come October 1st, okay? You'll know by November where you are in the referendum. And that's when Katie bars the door, and that's when you're really gonna have to make those wholesale changes and cuts.
But we'll have to have that number way before then, right? Right before we even see those October numbers, we're already gonna have to know what we're asking.
Yes, I agree, yeah, but I think what you can do, you can anticipate, I mean, you guys know what you need to operate the school. Again, as I hear the reading specialists being cut, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Because that's the key to improving test scores. Our teachers can teach their tails off, but if you don't have reading specialists working in small groups and individuals, you're not gonna improve your scores, okay? It just, that's the reality of it. You know, if you're eliminating literacy teachers in the middle school, you know, they're pulling kids in small groups, and I mean, all the things they've cut are impacting your test scores. And, you know, he and I were just talking, I said, one of our themes can be very simple. If we don't win, we're gonna increase class size to 30 plus at all levels. It's the reality of it, okay? And that's the reality of it. You know, we've had to reduce reading specialists X, Y, and Z, and this is happening our test scores. We need to hire those big kids back because your kid has to read. I mean, stay away from salaries. Just talk about the reality of what I heard tonight. This is what we've had to do because the education fund is down. This is what we have to do because the operations fund. And this is what we need your support on. And if they say no, then you gotta make those cuts. It's that simple. And you'll start announcing, you have to let teachers know by May 1st if they're not coming back, okay? Someone asked me that.
May 1st and June 1st.
Yeah, and so, but you're gonna have your points, again, you'll know first 2-3 weeks of school where your enrollment is, it's official October 1st. You'll know with the referendum, you'll know your game plan from there.
But don't you lose, at that point, a year's worth of the savings, if you would, and puts us right into our cash balances? I mean, like, aren't we negative at that point? I thought you said 2027, at some point we go negative.
It would be more than a year in the positive if we don't make some cuts.
I guess that's my point, right? I mean, that gets you,
spending
you're telling me I couldn't do anything until May of 2027 in that case,
Well,
but
yeah.
we're gonna be out of cash before then.
Well, there's a
What
rainy
was
day.
the bond money they were talking about the other day that you could
Yeah, we could.
do
You
something
could-
to
I
and
think
get
we're
from?
pursuing that, aren't we?
You can take
But that would make that positive though, right?
You can take GO bonds, okay, and you could use that for operational / capital project stuff.
We are right now.
Okay, but you cannot do it to hire teachers, unless of course you're Muncie and they did it. Yeah, I'll just throw them in jail. You can't do that.
But you could transfer less from the education fund over
Yes,
to
you can.
operations.
Yeah, so your GO bond, which I just talked to the superintendent yesterday, they're doing a $70 million project. I said, hold 10 back, 10 to 15 back for GO bonds, because you just don't know what's coming next. And so based on that, you can help, again, I'm in an area I'm not as knowledgeable, but by doing the GO bond may give you that flexibility to get through on the operations side.
Yeah, if we're not gonna make any cuts, we have no choice, in my opinion, and you tell me if I'm wrong, to pursue that bond where we can reimburse ourselves
The taxable.
for tax, yeah, because we won't have the cash.
We're already spending anything that can be out of the bond. I probably paid,
Sorry.
I don't know, $50,000 worth of repairs we've had done in the last month out of the bond.
I mean,
Because,
Which you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
which we're allowed to do, but
you know,
it eats up the bond money from doing anything else we want to do with it.
to me, I mean, I know, sometimes in businesses, you gotta spend money to make money. I mean, and that, to me, that's, we're spending that money to save,
Yeah.
Just it is what it is. I don't.
So Mr. Pro, a question for you. When you say, we're not gonna make the cuts, I think we do have to address the retirements that are happening. So are we saying we are going to backfill those, or we are not going to backfill those?
I mean, that's the question we're gonna have to answer,
I mean, would that be one that you would leave up to the individual building principals? I mean.
That's all me.
Yeah, that's all elementary right now.
Oh, well, they don't need anybody.
But also, you're gonna have some savings on that, because you're not gonna, your teachers retiring will be the top of the scale.
Yeah.
What's your top?
That's what the number
Yeah.
there, it's with their benefits and everything. And then there's one teacher that if I hired somebody with 15 years' experience, Kelly gave me the numbers. So, I mean, it's all approximate, but I may get a first-year teacher, so it'd be cheaper.
And then don't you have to tell them, hey, we're hiring you, but if this fails, you're probably the first one's
I
gonna
don't
go.
have to I don't tell them
But
that because
shouldn't we tell them that?
No.
you can't. I mean, because you don't know.
Yeah, so I guess my other question too.
And I wouldn't
so
hire you.
If we were to put these teachers on contract for the 26-27 school year, right? And this referendum does not pass, we're saying we're gonna be in significant trouble come that January. Well, they're still under contract.
Mhm.
So we are going to be even more in the hole.
That's kind of what I was trying to,
I just wanna make sure we
yeah,
understand.
that's exactly what I was getting at with the cash
Yeah,
balance.
cause you wouldn't be able to riff until between.
No,
You
they're-
lost the whole year of being able to cost cut.
So if I have to absorb the 5, then take the 3 classes with 4, because that's not even absorbing the 5. So we would probably have 3 to 4 grade levels with 30 per class.
I guess my head is, I don't know that I would say absorb 5, but maybe you have to absorb 2, right, or something like that.
That is with 2.
Right, I mean, you
That is
absorb
with
2
2
and then you get
and
lower
3.
cost, to Paul's point, right, you get lower
Yeah,
cost,
right,
and you
I
get,
said little to no cuts, I
Right.
didn't say no cuts, I
Right.
said maybe little, so
That's what,
Right.
we could
you say
do
two, what do you mean,
two,
two retirements?
But I think,
To
I think that
amount, like
decision,
say,
and
as
Kelly
a
asked me a
overall,
very
like if I went
blunt
forward
question
in
right there, and I
fifth grade,
appreciate it, I think it's gonna have
and
to end up
then
being
if I went 4
me
in 4th grade, that's
that really
2.
decides that.
I do too, I mean, ultimately.
And that's fine,
I mean, like,
that's what you hired me for.
right, no, I think it is too, I mean, ultimately, the recommendation has to come from you.
I'm new to this, but so rainy day, when I see that, what do we use that for? When's the last time we've touched it, is it just sitting there just in case? and
Well,
fail?
3 times a week.
Well, I mean, I don't know, we're
The
drawing
last
out of all the
we
time,
really
or?
touched- For years, it was used for that $1,000 bonus that all staff was getting.
Right.
This first year, we got that.
Yeah.
Beyond that, so far, we haven't really touched it very much at all.
We have not,
But it's.
I know it's not
for-
responsible to touch it, but,
well, to put it in perspective though, there's like $1.9 million in there.
Yep.
You or you will be approving claims for, 1.4, maybe, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. And then another million almost in payroll, so that's 1 month's of stuff.
right, I know
1
that,
month.
but I'm not gonna get evicted if I have it.
No, I'm
you
just
know.
saying, like, it sounds like a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
pay it.
money, but the
But it's not.
reality is,
Oh, I know
it's
it's not.
1 month of stuff.
Most school corporations have a rainy day that it rarely gets touched because it is literally for
For that last-
dire straits.
Right.
Like,
But our dire straits is
It's-
this.
Like
city
the chiller
taking us
goes out
over.
and you gotta do it, you don't have the
Fail.
bond,
correct.
Yeah,
the roof blows off.
Correct.
Consolidated.
we get to the end of
So-
the year and we've got to spend another
Yep.
500.
I would just love to see it all in.
What happens if a school runs out of money?
State takes.
Worst case scenario, you run out of money, what happens?
The state will step in and take you over.
Consolidate
The
whatever
board,
they want.
the board will be completely replaced with a company that is chosen by the state to run the school for a period of time till it's back in a feasible, manner.
But if we run it, if we lose and we run it out of money and we can't do that until 28, that's what's gonna happen. Worst, that sounds terrible to say worst case scenario, but I mean, I'm just,
Well, that's the worst case scenario, yeah.
And it's a very top-down approach. I mean, the
Well,
board,
but-
Yeah,
the
we're gonna
board's
talk about
telling the
impacting
superintendent
lives.
exactly what to do, they're telling the teachers what to do.
Putting it all on
It's-
red.
Both Muncie and Gary have gone through that.
I worked in Gary.
Yeah, I know people who work in Gary, and it was a very interesting situation.
And I don't wanna, but I mean, that's what's at
Like the football
stake,
team.
in my opinion. I mean, that's, it might not be tomorrow.
I guess my thought is, I would expect you to come with some recommendations to cut some, and then we'll probably make a decision on Monday to pursue.
Yeah, so right now, I've got it on the agenda, cause I figured this is the way we were going. I've got Paul and Dave's companies on there for you to, if you wish to engage with them on what they do, I've got them on there for you on Monday, and you can make that decision then on what you wish to do, and then I will work on, what I think might be the most reasonable cuts we could do, and
Like now.
Is that gonna be included with the bond transfers?
If we do the bond
If we do
transfers.
if we do the bond transfers, I mean, the necessary
will we have
cuts.
to make cuts if we do
Right,
the bond?
yeah, like what would be that?
Out of the
we-
education fund, yes, because the bonds are only gonna hit the operations, so we would still have to do probably something in education.
Unless you can balance your transfers, which is,
Yeah.
you
But
do
it-
that.
So you're telling me there's no way, no possible way we can make it to January, get through the election for the referendum, there's no possible way of making it without making a cut.
In education, we probably
I
can,
mean, if we spend on our rainy day, sure,
yeah.
then we've got nothing to fall back on.
Spend it.
In
I just am not cut,
But that's with refilling the retirements, or not refilling the retirement.
I mean, I think we'd be spending, not all of it, but a good chunk of it, it just depends.
Well, here's the ultimate thing that will happen.
If we refill the retirement,
If-
I think we'd spend most of it.
If you want to see me bring you some cuts out of education fund, I can do that. Ultimately, you guys are gonna be voting on it.
We need to do this Monday?
I would like to have a work session where, when you bring these recommendations, that we could discuss them.
Okay?
Doing the same thing.
I don't wanna knee-jerk reaction to something. I'd like to see what that, what that proposed, and,
If you're gonna riff a teacher, you have to do it between May first
Yep.
and June first. If you're gonna riff them.
yeah, been there, done that.
If it's retirement,
I don't
or
think
backfill, that's,
We're not there.
About admin,
We're not there
do
right
we
now.
know,
Right.
can we be, if you wanna absorb admin, can we know in advance?
we're not gonna, if we do something like that, it's not, you're gonna find out in June.
I just would like to throw out.
Yeah, you got, and yeah, what Kelly just said, you guys have another year in the contract too.
Yeah. As we look at potentially not backfilling positions at the elementary, or really any position of a licensed teacher, that we really take a long, hard look at, all positions. Anything that can be absorbed that doesn't impact students, that doesn't impact our earliest learners and literacy when we are looking at putting 30 students in a class. I think if that is our vision, to provide the highest quality education for our students and our most highly effective teachers, we need to retain every great teacher that we have. And absorbing some of that and not hiring a highly qualified and effective teacher to fill that position puts us again on the back end. So my request is, as you look at all of those positions, keeping that in the forefront of your mind and looking at every single position that perhaps doesn't impact a student directly. and doing that with our teachers who impact, who service 25 kids every 50 minutes. A kid rolls through their class period, and they are providing direct, high-quality instruction to them. That's a loss we cannot, as a district, afford to lose.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think every position's on the table.
I think, we can have a work session probably prior to spring break. Matter of fact, I think we need to look at those.
But how, if we're gonna do that though, I'm fine with that. But I mean, are we gonna come with specific proposals? I don't want another session like, I mean, this is the second session like this we've had where we're kind of kicking ideas. But like, I feel like we're paralyzed in action.
If you want specific proposals, I'll bring you specific proposals.
I think that's what I would want. I don't know what everybody else wants, but.
Well, everyone keeps saying, this is the same meeting we had last night. The whole point was trying to get people to talk. I think we've had some different information come out, and, I mean.
And I still think if you don't wanna get rid of positions, you have to look at some benefits too. It's not a popular thing, but it doesn't affect kids.
We'll get to work on this next week, and I can let you know as soon as we're ready, and I can probably have it ready for you, like I said, to have a work session prior to spring break, and we'll bring you specific scenarios.
I mean, I don't see how it works other than that, right? I mean, like, I could take the list and say, oh, get rid of this, get rid of this, but I have no idea really, like, what that does in the curriculum and things like that, right? And look, nobody likes any of this. I mean, everybody did exactly what I think they should do. You should defend the elementary, you should defend the middle, and he should defend the high school. I get that, right? But collectively, we said, oh, we can't make cuts here, we can't make cuts here, we can't make cuts here. I mean, okay, well, the money's still not gonna be there. So, I mean, at some point, non-decision makes the decision for you.
Correct.
It is the money. So you're telling me that we cannot operate as we are until January? You're telling me there's no other way to get through January other than to get rid of people?
I believe we can,
But we
but
then
you're
have
gonna eat into,
our rainy day.
Well, but that's part of, we have a job to do, we have a job to pass a referendum. I mean, we got the responsibility to pass it.
a scenario we will put together for
We will.
you is what it looks like doing nothing
And how much of
through
our
next
rainy day we have to
January,
spend.
and how much cash we'll spend down in a rainy day. I think that's a very feasible scenario to look at. Not a problem at all, we'll do that.
And I know maybe it's kind of, but we had the facility study.
Mhm.
So I know they were talking about chillers and they're on their last leg. You never know when one's gonna fail. How much does that cost?
A chiller?
Doing that $650,000, I think.
$650,000 to $750,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, we need to kind of think about that, spending down the rainy day. Do we spend down enough, but save that for
Right.
that chiller?
Now, we will have some bond capacity coming up.
Right.
Where we'll have maybe 30 to 40 million, because we'll have the elementary paid off.
But you can't use that for operations money, right? You can use it for projects, but you
can
can't.
use it for projects.
You can't use it for like
use for salaries,
and, okay,
benefits.
just wanna be clear on that.
Oh, we can replace that chiller that breaks.
But you
Because
could,
our rainy day's
what's
gone.
your geo capacity?
I don't know off the top of my head, I know that we're, chatting.
You can borrow the maximum out in the geo bond, it doesn't mean you need to spend it.
Which I think we did this year, right? We did $6 million
I think
this year.
we're maxed out until that fall.
We broke it up into 3 and 3.
Yeah, and we just haven't taken it, but we maximized the
But that,
the
go back
bond.
to Jack's point, you could borrow that and use that to be your, backup to the rainy day, but just know you're not gonna, in other words, you're gonna spend, when you do the geo bond, you can really dive in, okay, we're gonna need this to get us through. But then we're also gonna need to set about 1.2 million in case we have chillers, and it's gonna, so you can almost diversify the geo capacity that you can spend for that. So, cause Steve, I remember, the elementary school was a combination of common school loan and maybe lease rental geo, I can't remember, but it was a combination. And you've got that falling off sometime in 27 or somewhere down the road. But as you look at your geo bond, you could use it, we can use it to get us through on what we know we have to spend, and then have a little bit of rainy day within the geo bond. If that makes sense, Jack?
Yep.
We're with that too, when's our stuff falling off? In terms of debt.
That just seems crazy to me. I don't, we're worried about running down a rainy day. We're more worried about keeping our rainy day money than we are keeping teachers, and the rainy day is something that we can handle with a $30 million availability of a bond that we're gonna have coming on.
But you can't
I mean,
spend
it's
that
kicking
on-
the can down the road, I understand that,
The
but
thing about rainy day is we can spend that on teacher salaries if we need to, you know, we can't spend, so the good thing about the rainy day is it's much more flexible in what we can spend it on. If you just put it all in the bond, and you really corner yourself into what you can spend that on. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I'm just saying there is some pros and cons to that.
I mean, I guess for me though, Brock, that's kind of like if my personal budget was way out of whack, spending all my savings account instead of trying to get my spending in order.
if my kids were freezing to death on the street, I'll spend every dime I got to keep them warm as long as
I
I
won't
could.
disagree.
If you
Burn
could
it down.
if you could spend
Sure,
rainy
you'll drop your
day
phone,
on
right?
education,
I mean,
how does rainy day build up when we borrow from education to go into operations? I don't, where does
The
rainy?
money in rainy day actually came from transfers from education.
years ago though, right?
Correct, over the number of years, like
So,
when you're
so
doing
we don't continue
well-
to add to it like right now?
What's that?
So we don't add to that?
No,
I mean,
we
obviously not
add
right.
interest to it, but right now we're putting interest into operations because we have to have it.
We haven't been able to afford to transfer anything for the past couple of years. Now, in the past, when cash balance was better, I mean, they were doing transfers of $500,000 to $1 million into rainy day.
Which is how we got it.
Correct.
Which is how it was.
And then it sat there.
Yeah. Yep.
Last year was really the first year we did not touch it, and that was very purposeful,
Yeah.
because we knew we were.
We knew where we were headed.
Yeah.
We knew we was gonna need it between now and January 26th.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should pray again.
The only other question I had was, the other day we were talking about the 4-day-a-week and how great it was and all this, and then it just, like, one person said something and it just died.
Well, then it got.
Is it not a great thing? Is
It
it?
got turned down.
Yeah,
It was Casey.
Sorry,
It was
Casey.
me. It's
Yeah,
okay.
but I'm just saying, I mean,
So
it
some
just
follow-up
totally
information-
died.
I'm sorry, so
But
some
now do-
follow-up information in regards to the 4-day week. So the DOE is not approving them. Right now, they're denying all of them. So to start to pursue it at this time is not gonna happen. Right now,
Plus- Sorry.
oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, right now, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they are trying to finish a pilot. The one school that has the 4-day week has a 3-year pilot. And until that pilot is done, they're not approving any further. At that time, they're denying all the 4-day options. So they're on, is year 2? 1?
They're finishing year 2.
They're finishing year 2.
And I don't know if the bill went anywhere, but
I
I
did
think
not
there was.
find it on the bill yet. I could not find the.
Okay, there was talk, the General Assembly was gonna pass a bill, cause they heard about all these people wanting to do this, that you had to meet specific parameters to be even thought about being approved, and one of them was you had to have at least one school that had an option for a 5-day week, which really cuts down a lot of your smaller schools, because how are you gonna provide an option for a high schooler in one
Right,
school?
I would say that.
I
You
don't
always
think
have
it
to
made it to
have,
committee, though.
okay, so the
I don't
elementary
think- I don't
building is
think
gonna
it
be
was
open for
right.
5 days a week, you're also gonna have high school students in there going, and like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so I actually emailed the state after that work session just to figure out what it was. And so then I actually got an email back finally this morning. And so it says recent legislation in HB 1266 outlines the requirements for requesting a 4-day school week. To be eligible, there's 4 things. So you have to provide transportation to a school that runs a 5-day school week. So it wouldn't have to be necessarily our school, but you would have to provide it to a school. You'd have to have a agreement with somebody. You have to provide that transportation. Let's see here. 2, you have to be placed in the highest performance and improvement category or designation by the department under IC 2031A. So you have to be in that highest performance category. 3, you have to meet the minimum teacher salary, and 4, you have to provide enrichment and remediation opportunities on the day that a regular school day is not conducted at no cost to the parent of a student, of the student.
Not viable.
They're doing everything they can to hamstring us. is what they're
Right,
doing.
they don't, you know, that's,
Right, yeah.
that's our DOE, they're backward anyway, always have been. And they're not about helping schools that are small.
So I think that's one of the reasons they were denying people, was because this legislation was getting pushed through
Correct.
anyways, and they were waiting to see, not even just about the pilot school, but where this legislation was heading
Yeah.
before approving those things. And then
Yep.
it looks like, based on that email, it probably got passed.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a viable option right now.
Sorry, first to bubble again, didn't I?
Thank you, Casey. That's why we put a
Well, I just seen a
nomination
glimpse of hope in there, and everybody was like happy and loving it, and then,
Welcome to education.
yeah.
I do think that the marketing itself could bring students in.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
do
for
think
sure.
we need to advertise what we do well and focus in on what that is.
Yeah.
There are things about Monrovia that other districts don't have, that we are just not, like, we're just keeping it to ourselves. So, I do think there's definitely potential there to get more students.
Yeah. And I know that we lose teachers. I think every district does. You know, if we lose them to Mooresville, then Mooresville loses them to Plainfield, blah, blah. But we do have long-term teachers who have stayed here at not the highest salaries in the world, but just because of the environment and the working conditions. And so I think we need to herald that also. I'm retired. You don't care. My income has been limited. I have no children in this district. But I'd be willing to take the hit to keep things going and moving forward, not just maintaining. I don't think you're going to draw students if you're going to just maintain. Now, can we do what Plainfield does? No. But let's do the best with what we have. And I think, you know, we've been innovative in a lot of different ways, you know, moving towards more of the CTE classes, dual credits. That's what I hear from parents. I'm a dual credit. I want my kid to get out of here, have that associate's degree, because I don't want to pay that big college tuition. Well, it's a reality. And if we don't do it, somebody else will. And I don't like to see kids leave, but if they want to go to Cascade and play football, love you, you know.
Cascade's enrollment dropped. They went from 3A to 2A. So
Right.
Everybody's enrollment's dropping.
Yeah. Well, it's because people are on Facebook and they're not, well, I won't go there. But we're seeing declining birth rates. And if I'm not mistaken, when we did our last study, we were the only school district in Morgan County that had a positive birth rate. But evidently, it's not much.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm willing. I'll go knock on doors. You can have coffee and tea with me. I grind my own beans. Cheaper
Buy
than
some creamer? No.
Coconut creamer. But you know, these are tough decisions, and you know, with the economy like it is, I think it's going to rebound no matter what. You know, but I think we've got a good thing going here if we can just keep it going. And I know, you know, the board, I convinced them, I twisted their arm not to take the increase in our allotment and no per diems and stuff like that, so I've done my part. But I just appreciate all the work that the administrators have gone through, and I know that you've met with your folks, and we'll make it somehow. We'll make it.
We need a chiller in here, that's for sure.
A chiller in here?
It's warm.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have another meeting to discuss the meeting?
Another meeting after that.
At the next work session, which
When are we doing that?
I think it needs to be before spring break. Spring break's the last.
Can we figure out what day we can do that now?
Yeah, let's look at days now. Grab my phone.
Spring break is the 30th, correct?
When's spring break?
The 30th, March 30th.
I'm gone the 25th, 6th, and 7th.
So we've got to figure something out in the next 3 weeks.
I'll probably be here. You guys are going vacation?
How much time do you need?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
That's where we're at. We'll have you talk about this meeting at that meeting.
So we got a meeting on
I feel bad, I'm gonna vote on Thursday.
So we got the week at 16th, really. is what we need to be
Yeah,
looking
so
at.
I'd say,
We do it,
I mean, I could have something if we want to do late next week.
we do it on the 19th?
On the 12th.
We already have a meeting on the 12th.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do superintendent stuff on the 12th.
I mean, it's done at 6:30.
what if we,
It's reading, right?
should we have the week of the 23rd?
You're off then.
No, I'm good now, that, what I had going on was changed, well,
I
19th
think
maybe,
that
18th.
we need
I'll be
to
here,
give
but
them a little bit of time to
I'm gonna switch the week
get
of the
stuff together
23rd.
too. We can't just give
We do it on the 19th?
I'm not going anywhere, sir.
How much, I mean, what's a feasible time that you would need? I mean, there's a lot of requests on our expectations. What's a feasible time you need to?
What, can we look
Collect
at
it
the
all.
week of the 23rd for the meeting?
Can we
That
do it on,
gives all next week?
can we do it on the
23rd
23rd
or
or 24th? I'm gone from the 25th on.
I'm wide open on the 23rd
We
right
have
now.
math bowl on the 24th. Competition.
I can
Okay.
make 23rd work.
Positions, because with that, need to be executive.
Could have it on church after, on the 22nd.
Doesn't have to be.
Okay, I just didn't know with personnel.
I can do any day that week. Make it.
23rd?
Actually do it on the 25th when I'm not here.
You're not getting out of that.
Wait, who's VP?
Yeah.
23rd?
I think we're hearing 23rd, right?
Yeah.
23rd?
23rd.
Going once?
We can
No,
do
we
that.
can't make a decision.
5:30?
I don't know
Oh,
what I'm
we
doing
can't-
tomorrow,
We
so.
can't
We can do a
vote.
consensus.
We're not voting.
We're not voting, we're
You want
just,
me to say what it is?
we're just
We'll
consenting.
go on the 23rd, 6:30.
Sounds great.
I like that idea.
Okay, I think 6:30 on the 23rd.
Thank you.
6:30 on the 23rd?
Can we bump it up to
Get paid the big
6?
bucks.
How about 6?
6 works.
Six?
It's like an option.
How about
6.
6?
works
6
better.
o'clock,
All right.
23rd.
And you'll send out reminders.
Anybody got anything good to say?
God is good.
Failure's not an option.
I understand.
Amen.
We're not
I
going to.
think you have to put, the failure is not an option for your
We're not going
kids.
to.
We're not gonna fail.
We're not.
And it's gotta be the driving force behind it. Failure is not an option.
How does that show up? Does that show up just a yes or no? I've never seen one like on the ballot.
Oh, a referendum?
Are we
Yes or
encouraged?
no?
Just yes or no. It doesn't like break down like percentages or nothing like
Question
that.
is this.
No, we can't make a motion.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know, like,
session,
if
you
you'd have
send
like
it.
Yeah, we're done.
an A and a B option.